David Collins wasn't supposed to be in their lives, not like this. But by the time the Peterson family realized something was off, it was already too late. Anna Peterson had just walked past David's room when she overheard him on the phone. His voice was calm, like he was discussing groceries, not talking about fingerprints, dental records, and needing a new face. She froze. Her gut told her this man wasn't who he claimed to be. Shaken, she called the military base he said he'd served at.
As in Caleb Peterson, his sister.
But there were no records, no confirmation. Instead, she was told his file was classified, referred to a private security firm called KPEG. When the operator escalated the inquiry, the man on the other end simply said, "Tell them David Collins is dead." Dead. Anna's mind raced.
David Collins is dead.
Just yesterday, David had been in her house, laughing with her parents, handing out advice to her little brother, even sharing drinks with her dad. Who was this guy? But David wasn't just some house guest. He'd slipped into their lives like a ghost with a smile, arriving one quiet morning while Laura, Caleb's mom, was home alone. Grief had swallowed her since losing her son Caleb in Afghanistan. So when a calm, respectful young man knocked at the door, saying he was Caleb's army buddy, she welcomed him in.
Mrs. Peterson, I knew your son, Caleb.
He said he'd been with Caleb during his final moments, and that Caleb's last words were about his family. Laura didn't question it. She just cried behind a closed door. David pointed to a group photo of Caleb's unit and claimed to be one of the soldiers. He looked close enough. He offered to leave, but Laura, touched by his presence, offered him Caleb's old room.
Please, stay. It's...
Anna, Caleb's sister, didn't buy into it. She met David briefly before work and barely glanced at him. To her, he was just another face from Caleb's past. The youngest sibling, Luke, came home later that day with a fresh bruise under his eye. Something about football, he said. David didn't press, but he clearly wasn't convinced. That night, over dinner, Spencer, Laura's husband, wasn't thrilled either. He didn't trust strangers, especially not ones who showed up uninvited with military stories. But eventually he gave in.
What if he has the PTSD or whatever?
He and David even shared a drink, though it was more of a truce than a warm welcome. Things started to shift when David picked Luke up from school the next day. Said Laura approved, but really he wanted answers. He calmly asked Luke who had given him the bruise.
I want you to show me who hit you yesterday.
Over there.
Luke pointed out the Bullies. David tracked them to a bar and ordered them pricey drinks.
I'd like to buy each one of them a blowjob shot.
When one of them hurled a drink in David's face, he stayed cool, until he didn't. One splash back and David snapped. In a flash, he had the guys on the floor. Luke got caught in a mess, but came out with just a scrape. The bar owner pulled a bat, but David paid him off,
I imagine you in this place could get into trouble for serving minors.
warning that serving minors could land him in jail. Back at home, David and Spencer grew closer. Spencer vented about work stress and how he felt stuck. When David mentioned he might leave soon, Spencer insisted he stay. For the first time in a while, Spencer had someone to talk to who didn't judge him. Anna, still unsure, told her boyfriend Zeke that something felt off about David. Later that night, she bumped into David in the bathroom while getting ready for a party. It was awkward, but they moved past it. Laura encouraged her to take David with her to the party, saying it's what Caleb would have wanted.
David, would you like to come to the party with me tonight?
At the party, David met Anna's friends. Kristen, the host, was immediately interested. When David stepped between her and her aggressive ex, Kristen was all over him. They ended up in her room that night, but David was weirdly blank, distant. No emotion. Later, David talked with Craig, a dealer and part-time arms trafficker.
Thought you guys left your own party.
When Craig learned David was ex-military, he offered his services. David didn't hesitate. He asked for a gun.
Could you get me a gun?
Why? Craig asked. David smiled. Because I'm a soldier. Meanwhile, Anna and Zeke had a blow-up. She vented to David on the ride home. How Zeke had no job.
He doesn't even have a job.
No goals. Just sold drugs half-heartedly. David offered kind words that made her smile.
Please put on your seatbelt. Messing things up with you, then he's a fool, and you don't need to worry about it.
She even promised to make him a mixed CD. The next morning, CD in hand, Anna went to find David. That's when she overheard his call about needing new identification, new fingerprints, new everything. Alarmed, she started digging. Kristen helped. She told Anna to check David's ID and call history. Luke, being good with computers, could help too. While they planned, David gave Luke a knife, a butterfly knife. He told him to never let people push him around. If you have to fight, David said, then fight. And if that doesn't work, be ready to protect yourself.
Go around their houses at night and burn them down with their families inside.
That same day, David met Craig and an arms dealer in a quiet location, but he wasn't there to buy. After testing a weapon, he shot the dealer point blank. Craig ran. David shot him too. He grabbed everything. Guns, grenades, like he was prepping for war. Back home, Spencer got some shocking news. His boss and his boss's girlfriend were found murdered. Spencer got promoted the next day. A win, sure, but the timing? Too convenient.
They found Alan. They found him and his girlfriend dead.
Then Zeke called Anna. Craig was dead. David had left fake evidence in Zeke's apartment and car, framing him. Anna was done. She met Kristen and told her everything. Kristen pushed her to dig deeper. That night, Anna sneaked into David's room and took photos of his call history.
Cool.
But she messed up, left his phone out of place. David noticed. He knew someone had been in his stuff. Anna didn't waste time. She gathered her family and told them everything. The murder, the framing, the phone call confirming David Collins was officially dead.
Okay, we don't know who he is. Called the military base that he said he was from, and they told me he was dead.
David didn't break a sweat. He said he was part of a top-secret military group. His files? Hidden for national security. The government had faked his death to protect his identity. He even had Caleb's old dog tags to back it up. Laura and Spencer believed him.
I was part of a special forces unit when I was injured. So.
No questions asked. But Anna? She knew better. David wasn't just a guest anymore. He was something else. Things hit a boiling point when Spencer snapped at Anna, telling her she better say sorry for accusing him.
But you owe him an apology right now.
No fucking way.
But Anna wasn't having it. She shot him a cold look and stormed off without a word. As soon as she got to her room, she slammed the door shut, locked it, and collapsed on her bed, tears rushing down her face. She was hurt and furious all at once. Not long after, there was a knock on her door. It was David. His voice was low, gentle even. He said he understood things had been rough with Craig and Zeke, and if being around him made things worse, he'd pack his stuff and be out in a couple of days. Before leaving, he quietly picked up the mixed CD Anna had made for him and thanked her. A few days later, Anna was driving Luke to school. During the ride, she told him she'd been digging into David's past and needed his help. She said one of the phone numbers David used was linked to a shady plastic surgeon, someone who'd lost his license after doing surgeries while drunk. Anna believed it was a lead and wanted Luke to look into it. Luke got on it right away.
He's not a doctor anymore. He lost his license 2 years ago.
As soon as he reached school, he started his own little investigation. But trouble wasn't far behind. One of the school bullies came at him again, making the same cruel jokes. Oh, what's the matter? Looking for someone to finish your gender switch?
For someone to do your sex change operation?
The boy jeered. This time, Luke didn't just walk away. Maybe it was David's influence, or maybe he was just done taking the abuse. Whatever it was, he snapped. He tackled the bully and let loose, fists flying until the boy screamed in pain. Both kids ended up in the principal's office. Laura was called in, and surprisingly, David came with her. When he heard what had gone down, David didn't scold Luke. Instead, he said he was proud of the kid for finally standing up for himself. The principal, however, didn't share that sentiment. He said violence couldn't be allowed, and Luke was getting expelled. That's when David pushed back hard. He called the whole thing unfair. The bully had used a slur, hate speech, and Luke had been a target because of who he was. Now he fights back and gets punished? That wasn't justice.
Makes it a hate crime.
David leaned in and made a threat. If the school went through with expulsion, he and Laura would sue them.
We're suing you and the school board.
He demanded to know what the bully had said. I don't think that's relevant, the principal replied. That makes it a hate crime, David said coldly. To everyone's shock, the principal caved. Luke wasn't expelled. He got detention for a month instead.
What about after-school detention?
Luke felt like he owed David everything. But that feeling took a weird turn. He turned on Anna. He told David that she was convinced he had something to do with Craig's death and that she was planning to talk to the cops to clear Zeke's name. Luke admitted that part of him was starting to believe her, especially after finding out David had contacted a plastic surgeon, probably to change his face. Still, Luke said none of it mattered. David had been there for him. He wouldn't say a word. David gave a relieved smile. He asked if Anna had told anyone else. Luke said she might have mentioned something to Kristen. Later that day, David was helping Laura fold laundry in the backyard. She thanked him, not just for the help, but for everything he'd done for their family. David, humble as always, told her it was no big deal and offered to take over the rest. But just as he headed inside, things took a dark turn. A black SUV pulled up silently. Carver and a squad of highly trained agents stepped out, weapons ready. Carver walked up to Laura, showed her a photo, and asked if she recognized the man. Nervously, she admitted that it was David and that he had just walked inside. Everyone turned toward the house. At that moment, David appeared in the doorway, but the second he saw the guns, he dropped the laundry, pulled a gun from his waistband, and shot 2 agents before ducking back inside. He was bleeding. He'd taken a bullet to the thigh, but he didn't stop. He tore some fabric to wrap the wound, then grabbed the weapons he'd hidden earlier. When an agent peeked through the window, David took him out with a clean headshot. A storm of bullets followed, but David rolled under a bed and waited. When another soldier stepped in, unaware, David shot him in the leg, then finished the job with a shot to the head. Another burst in, same outcome. With fewer soldiers left, the rest fired wildly at the house. David stayed low, grabbed a backpack filled with gear, and crawled toward the kitchen. That's where he found Laura, crouched and trembling, trying to call the police. He snatched the phone from her before she could speak. She looked at him, terrified, asking who those men were, what was really going on, and if David had ever even known her son. David didn't answer most of her questions, just said that he and Caleb had been part of the same secret military unit. Caleb would have understood, he said, but that wasn't enough. Laura screamed, trying to warn the soldiers outside. She didn't get the chance. With Laura gone, David knew he had to move fast. He shot the remaining soldiers and disabled their cars by shooting the tires. Only Carver was left. Desperate, Carver jumped into one of the ruined vehicles and sped off. But another car came flying down the road, Spencer. David didn't hesitate. He buckled his seatbelt and rammed the other vehicle head-on. Both cars crumpled on impact. David climbed out, limped to Spencer's door, and found him barely alive. David whispered an apology and then pulled the trigger. Then, just like that, he vanished into the woods. Carver arrived too late. All he found was twisted metal and silence. But an old man was nearby. Carver flashed his badge and took the man's truck, heading straight to the diner where Anna worked. Inside, Carver walked up to Anna, introduced himself, and mentioned David. That was all it took. Anna grabbed her coat and left with him. Moments later, David arrived in a stolen car. He walked in and saw Kristen working the counter. He asked where Anna had gone. Kristen didn't know much, just that she'd left with some guy. David's face hardened. He figured it out. Anna was going to get Luke. But before chasing her, David turned on Kristen. He shot her in front of the few customers still inside, then pulled 2 grenades from his jacket and hurled them into the diner. Meanwhile, Anna and Carver were on their way to Luke's school. During the drive, Carver filled her in. He told her her parents were dead. Then he explained the truth. David wasn't just some veteran with a shady past. He'd been part of a military experiment, programmed to kill anyone who might expose him. Even if he wanted to stop, the programming might not let him. David's rampage didn't start with the Petersons. He had escaped from a secure facility, killing people and setting fires to hide his tracks. For months, no one knew where he was, until Anna had unknowingly led the military to him. Back at school, Luke was in detention, helping set up decorations for the Halloween dance. Phones weren't allowed, so he missed Anna's warning call. Not long after, Anna and Carver burst in and found him. But before they could leave, the power went out. A familiar tune started playing, the one from the mixed CD. David was here. Carver told the teacher to lead Anna and Luke out through the mirror maze. But David was waiting. As the teacher turned a corner, David stabbed him without blinking. Carver handed his gun to Anna and told her to run. He stayed back to face David himself. But David didn't come charging in. He took his time. When he finally attacked, he tore into Carver with savage precision, stabbing him over and over until the man bled out in the dark. Only Anna and Luke were left. Luke still didn't want to believe it. He thought David was just running from something, not trying to hurt them. But Anna broke down and told him the truth. David had killed their parents. Luke froze.
He killed Mom and Dad.
Then finally, he nodded. He believed her. Anna told him to hide. She would lure David away. She grabbed Carver's gun and went looking. David was already searching room to room. Anna found him first and shot him in the chest. He fell, but the thick smoke made it impossible to see clearly. When she turned around, he was gone. David lunged out of the shadows and stabbed her in the leg. She fired again but missed, hitting a light and starting a fire. David went for her throat. That's when Luke broke his promise. He ran out and stabbed David with a butterfly knife. David dropped, but instead of fighting back, he just looked at Luke, smiled, and said he did the right thing. There was no guilt to carry.
He did the right thing.
Anna and Luke escaped as the building went up in flames. Cops and fire trucks swarmed the place. They were taken to safety, injured but alive. An officer came out with news. Only 2 bodies had been recovered.
Guess there's 2 bodies inside.
As they watched the firefighters comb the wreckage, Anna noticed one limping out. He paused, looked her right in the eyes, and in that second she knew this wasn't over.